Okay, so we're gonna be starting Frostmourne. I technically already did start, but halfway through, or a little over halfway through, I decided to change my mind on the class I wanted to play. I was going to do Shadow Priest, and I still might down the road, but you know, I don't know how I feel just being a purple silhouette for, you know, the entirety of the expansion. I don't know, I'm a very like visual kind of guy. I like seeing the armor I wear, the weapons I got. I like to see the, you know, the gear that I earn, and I'm just a very melee kind of person. I one of these days I'm gonna give Caster a nice fair max level shot, but for now I kind of want to do Enhancement Shaman in this expansion for Stormforge. So I'm gonna give Enhancement Shaman a shot. I from the times that I have played it, I really enjoyed it, and they're viable enough. Guilds need them. They're fun in general. Wrath of the Lich King, I'm not sure how they are in terms of like my knowledge of them. I have a better knowledge of Enhancement Shaman in the Burning Crusade than I do in Wrath of the Lich King. So we're gonna be just a typical orc shaman. His name's gonna be Harkey, because my priest took the Harkridge name, but I don't want to delete the priest for the name, so I'll probably just send some gold over to my shaman. But I kind of just want to give this the fair shot than the caster, because Shadow Priest DPS seems kind of cool, but I don't know, I'm being kind of, I don't know, just a little, I just feel a little bored playing on it. I hate how shadow form basically makes you just this purple creature. Can't even see yourself. I'm like, what the hell? Doesn't even matter the gear I get. Can't even see it. But the you know, some of the rotations are kind of fun, but I think I'd rather focus maining on enhancement, and you know, maybe I could do Shadow Priest as like a PvP / PvE, you know, side character. I don't know. We're just gonna basically speed run this all the way to 80. I'm not gonna overcomplicate it too much, just, you know, highlights, dungeon runs. So far the server seems really fun and active, and you guys are gonna see that. The most important part is during times like when I play. That's very important for me, to be able to, you know, still have people to play with, and just, you know, basically, you know, realm activity. But I'm gonna send some gold over. I'm gonna send a little XP boost so I can catch up. Even though the server already runs on 5 times, I'm gonna, you know, send over a little 12-hour boost, which will really catch me back up to where my Shadow Priest left off. So that's what's gonna happen. Here is the 12-hour boost. We'll start it right now. And what I love about this boost is not only can it be, you know, bought on the store page, but also it can be bought and sold in the in-game in the auction house with gold, with in-game currency. But the hours is only based off of how long you're actually logged in, which is awesome. You know, so you basically make use of the whole boost almost just by playing on the character. So as long as you're playing, you're getting the boost. And when you log out, you can still log back in with the boost remaining that you haven't used, which I love. I love that, the fact that you can do that here. It really makes the boost feel worth it, and you don't miss out on anything. You don't miss out on any timing at all. I love that feature completely. But we're gonna get this going here, and then I can spam RDF soon. I was so excited to try Shadow Priest because I know Shadow Priests are pretty good in this expansion, like especially late game. But I don't know, I'm not a caster, man. I'm not a caster. I'm not a caster player. I wish I was, like, because casters seem so fun to play as. But I don't know. I'm just like, you know, I'm a melee person. I just swing things, you know. I don't really think about anything. I just swing things. Maybe one day I'll you know, give casters a true shot, like on a fresh new realm or server. My first main character is, you know, a caster. It's not a melee, you know, warrior, paladin, even shaman or rogue, just a straight caster. I almost did that with Shadow Priest, but I gave up, so I just got bored. Plus, I'm really used to like the high burst kind of melee damage. You don't really get that with casters sometimes. It's kind of just like a ramping up kind of thing. It's very gradual damage. I'm not used to that. Not that I wouldn't like it, but it's just not something, again, it's just not something I'm used to.
Glory to the Horde. What you want?
Loktar. Dabu. For the Horde. Spring.
Loktar.
Quest complete. Quest complete. Quest complete. Quest complete.
Mokra. May your blades never dull. Relax.
Strength and honor. Sug. Go with honor. Stay away from the voodoo.
Who you be? See ya later. Be seeing ya later. Okie dokie. Relax. How you doing, man?
Quest complete. Quest complete.
Spirits be with ya, man.
Quest complete.
Hey there. Later. See ya later. Hello, man.
Hey, we can start dungeons now.
Zug zug. Strength. For the whole. Stronghold. For the horde.
So we finally hit around the 15 plus mark, so starting up our RDF spam as we speak. Really excited to get this going and just, really start this journey on this realm, Frostmourne, to level 80, because with the 5 times XP rate and the 100% increased XP boost that I took, and eventually later in this video you'll see too, I get it, I start to dip into the weekend, so kind of like a 150% increased XP boost on top of the 5 times leveling rate, because the extra 50% came from the weekend XP boost, so just everything's just stacking super fast leveling. Really good for a catch up. But pace is extremely fast. The realm is still kind of young. We're in phase 2, almost getting into phase 3 in a few more weeks. So really good, for people who just want to get to level 80 without buying any instant level boosts. I think they really intended people to kind of speed run through kind of that lower level experience, just so people can get to that end game content that everyone knows and loves. It's not really surprising that a lot of Wrath of the Lich King servers right now are kind of focusing on higher XP rate and just end game content, because at this point in 2026, it's pretty, the whole leveling immersion experience is pretty known. I wouldn't really say at this point in time there's a lot of players missing out on that experience. I mean, Wrath of the Lich King is an extremely popular expansion in Blizzard's game history and World of Warcraft expansion history. Arguably, probably to a lot of people, the best expansion, but also signs of kind of the problems that a lot of people deal with retail now. Just kind of like Wrath of the Lich King was the start of that. But I've warmed up to Wrath of the Lich King content. I got to experience a lot of TBC on other servers, and as I've enjoyed Netherwing, I just kind of wanted to focus on their most popular realm right now, and just really get to re-experience a fresher, younger realm, and kind of progress with the server in a way. I always end up kind of coming in a little late. I got to enjoy TBC, during the times that I could and what was available for me based off of just my real life schedule and the raids that I was able to do. But starting to focus on Frostmourne right now. I might, revisit Netherwing and TBC depending on, where I'm at and how much time I have freed up. But Frostmourne right now is kind of my focus, and really excited to get this going, because, even during what's considered lower population times for when I'm online, I see player base at like 2,000 to 3,000, players online, which is great. That's awesome. It doesn't really take a lot to make the whole
world feel alive. I mean, just a couple thousand people, that makes it, you know, feel the game extremely alive, and that's kind of all a private server really needs. But, you know, when you have realms or servers that are kind of sitting below 300 consistently, maybe 500 at peak times, that's kind of half a thousand of peak players or less is a lot. You can feel that a lot more than a realm that has over 1,000 players. Even 1,000 players kind of feels a little alive. Anything under 1,000 starts to feel kind of dead. So I don't think I've ever seen the population drop below 2,000 on Frostmourne, which is great. I mean, maybe the lowest hour of the day, or, you know, North American times, maybe it might hit 1,900, 1,800, but that's very rare, and it mostly stays above 2,000 players, you know, all around, you know, 24 hours. Definitely the kind of players that would love this realm and server right now on Stormforge. Definitely, you know, alts, people who just kind of want to speedrun to 80 without, like, staying, like, fully committed to a character. Alts are probably the funnest to grind, probably, on this, if I had to guess. I mean, this is my second character, technically, but it's my main. I mean, it's so easy. It would be so easy to level an alt. And the fact that you don't even have to spend real money for the boosts. You know, people might spend real money to sell the boosts, but people in game can trade them, buy the boosts from the outside Stormforge shop. You know, you're not limited to the actual shop itself for the boost. Players can sell those boosts, so very easy to level alts. You know, if you're a brand new player and you're trying to, you know, rush to 80, really great server for that. Plenty of content to do. RDF is constantly on rotation. I would say, you know, if you are looking for a more vanilla, slow progression, you know, slow leveling, you know, 1x experience, I'm sure that's possible to set that experience to 1x on here, but most people are really kind of trying to get to the level that they want to be, whether that's for PvP or PvE. PvP actually probably wouldn't make sense because you can instant level to PvP. It's called the warpath. It wouldn't really make sense to just level to, you know, 80 and then switch to PvP. Warpath allows you to instant level to, you know, 80, but you are, I believe that character specifically is limited to only PvP content. So I guess technically you have a choice when it comes to PvP. You can either do the warpath, but your character is basically locked to PvP content, if I'm not mistaken. But if you want to have a character that has access to both PvE and PvP content, I guess that would make sense for you to level a character to 80 and then do PvP, but you still have the option to do PvE content. That would be the only time I would see that being a thing for players, and I'm sure there are people who do that, because personally, if I have an alt, I don't think I care about PvP that much to where I would want a character solely for PvP. You know, I want to be able to step out into the world and do other content than be locked to PvP. For me personally, you know, just so if I were to do PvP on this server, I'm definitely not instant leveling one. I'm just gonna either level a separate character or even make my shaman or your shadow priest do PvP. But I don't think I would ever use the instant 80 warpath option. But I mean, I think that's more allocated to people who really only want the PvP Wrath of the Lich King experience. But if you want the full Wrath of the Lich King experience, I wouldn't recommend the warpath. I think you should just level a character regularly and, you know, do both. Even if you have to grind the gear on both sides, it just makes the most sense. You're not like locked to anything like a warpath character. Just like in Netherwing, a lot of features that come with playing on Frostmourne is similar to Netherwing. You know, for example, accelerated leveling, 5 times experience, transmog. I also put a little picture, kind of like I did on Netherwing, of all of the features and perks that come with playing on this realm. You know, with transmog, it changes the look of your gear while keeping its stats, mix and match appearances, account-wide collections, mounts, pets, and item appearances are shared across your accounts, you know, giving every character access without repetitive grinding. Bot-free economy, secure economy with cross-faction auction house and anti-RMT measures, ensuring a stable and fair marketplace, which is probably one of the most important features I think that are on this list is that bot-free economy, because it's really bad. You know, especially bigger realms like these, that they would be really susceptible to bot activity. I still see like gold sellers and stuff. Their coin market on their shop, very, very large market. Whether that market is genuine and not farmers, like bot farming, I'm sure it still happens. But I think they're a lot more on top of that here, just because this is their highest populated realm for the server. So I would imagine that they're super on top of the bot, just the bot accounts. Of course, helpful support, just general supportive team to assist you with anything. This has nothing to do with Frostmourne, but I will make a comment that with Netherwing, and I know that's their lowest, well, not their lowest, but it's definitely their top 2 lowest, realm available on Stormforge. I have not successfully been able to have consistent contact with the staff team. I think that's just a reflection of this realm being less populated. So of course, naturally, GMs aren't going to be 24/7 in game and more responsive to players who need TBC support. Their TBC support side is lacking, but I think that's just because the realm is now getting older, less players are online, so getting support is going to take a little longer than their other realms. But Frostmourne, I haven't had any issues to really see, to tell. Was that just a realm situation, or is this kind of a general problem? So I'm not going to say that the support side is bad, but I wouldn't say I had the perfect experience on Netherwing. But again, that's not a reflection of Frostmourne. Just my insight from the only kind of support, staff team experience I've ever had. Just thought that was worth mentioning. Of course, cross-faction. Frostmourne supports extensive cross-faction gameplay, allowing you to connect with friends from Horde and Alliance at the same time. I think a lot of servers nowadays are doing cross-faction gameplay. I mean, it really does make the server feel more alive. I don't think people care about cross-faction anymore. Definitely more people are getting used to it. I remember when Excalibur, was still alive, maybe like 5+ years ago, people kind of were just getting more used to cross-faction. 5 to 10 years ago, that was starting to get more popular as time went on, and now pretty much every decent big server, they're doing cross-faction gameplay features. So at this point, anyone who's really doing private servers, it's kind of just something you're used to. And I think new players probably just think that's the norm. Like, oh, cross-faction, I guess that's normal here. People who are probably brand new to World of Warcraft, because I'm sure there are still people, and I based off of the players that I have come across, there are definitely some new people who've probably never played World of Warcraft before. So they probably think that cross-faction between Alliance and Horde is normal, but no. They would have no idea, and they would be surprised at that. That is a private server thing. I think retail does something similar to cross-faction, though. I think they, if PvP queues are slow, they'll allow Alliance players in retail or Horde players to fill the opposite faction's role just to make the queues faster. I think retail does something. So they kind of do some similar cross-faction things too. I could be wrong, but when I played retail, I think I recall something like that. So even in retail, that's kind of become a more publicized thing. Then you have racial shifts. You can min-max without having to worry about what race you play for your class. You can whether you care about min-maxing or you just want to be able to play whatever you want without having just to worry about racials. That is an option here, just like Netherwing. I love racial shift. I think it is one of the best features. Blizzard kind of like originally seemed to not care or think about how that might be a problem for some people, because like some people might want to be a night elf warrior but not have to worry about like, oh, are they getting the best output of whatever from whatever specialization they're playing, whether it's DPS, tank, or for healers, just not just warriors, just any class. People who want to take you seriously in raids or PvP, like they will literally sometimes choose people who are playing the min-max class versus min-max race versus the ones who aren't playing a race that's better suited for that class. But racial shift really solves that problem, and it allows people to just do and play whatever they want, look however they want, role play however they want, and not have to worry about, oh, am I meeting the best standards possible for my class? So racial shift makes total sense. I don't even see it as a problem in any way. I think it's something that Blizzard probably should have not allowed to be such a factor back in the day, but it's not really a thing now, but in retail at least. It's funny, a lot of these features, it's almost like it's what Blizzard should have done years ago. But private servers solve some of those like limiting factors of those expansions with the features that they bring in. It's like, Blizzard probably should have done it this way to be more supportive of the public and people who want to enjoy their older expansions without being limited by certain factors and in-game features that came natural to the game. Private servers are like, no, this is what World of Warcraft should kind of play like. So it's kind of an interesting experience to see that, especially the people who really did play these expansions with Blizzard back in the day, and then how that experience looks now with private servers on those same expansions. And when I was younger, I always thought, oh, that's stupid. I want the raw vanilla gameplay style with these expansions. I don't want all these extra cross-faction level boosts. I always saw that as like a fun server, but now I definitely don't think I want... I still kind of don't like instant max level servers. I still, even today, don't like that. But I'm definitely way more open to faster paced questing, leveling, and just getting to endgame content, because most of us already experienced that leveling experience. That 1 month, 3 week leveling experience it takes to get to max level, like 1 to 2 month experience. We've all done it at least one time in our lives, and probably a lot of other times in 2 to 3 times experiences. Like, at least I have. I've leveled so many times on so many different servers. At this point, I don't really mind a faster experience. And there's just a lot of quality of life features that Frostmourne brings. AoE looting, auto learn spells while leveling, and other streamlined systems that make the gameplay smoother. So it's just kind of like what I was talking about. Stuff that Blizzard should have incorporated back then. Another thing, too, to mention, I decided to kind of loop the full level 1 to level 80 experience all into one video, just because, I've already shown like multiple episode video series of my leveling experiences before, and I've already played on Whitemane, and this server is kind of partnered with Whitemane on this realm specifically, because this runs on the Whitemane Core, and a lot of Whitemane people probably came to this realm. And I'll get more into the Whitemane, Frostmourne, Stormforge experience and how they partnered. I'll get more into that later. But I've played on Whitemane. I made that a series of Wrath of the Lich King, whole questing series and dungeon series. So I don't want to, even though this is a different class, I don't want to oversaturate my channel with just more of the same expansion series like that. Like, I don't want to have it be too much of the same content. Just, it seems easier just to wrap this all into one video, especially too, since this is such fast leveling. You can't really get the full like expansion experience with how fast I'm choosing to level with boosts and weekend boosts. So it just makes more sense for me to condense this into one video and not make it into an entire series, at least in terms of level. Enhancement Shaman kind of starts to peak at around level 30 to 40, basically when you can dual wield. I think that's level 40, you can dual wield in the talents. Pretty much up until then, you're kind of just an Enhancement Shaman that still needs to use elemental abilities. It's kind of not even an elemental shaman at lower levels, I was still kind of like doing high DPS in those runs. So at least in terms of spamming RDF, and shamans are really, really strong. Like, even when I wasn't even speccing into elemental, I was still doing top of the damage meters. I have no heirloom gear. I was doing more damage than some people who had like full heirloom gear. And that's just probably because I feel like I'm more experienced and smarter with my rotations and just knowing what abilities to use and how to use them in dungeons and PvE content. Like, I just, at this point in time and the amount of World of Warcraft experiences I've had, I try to do my own research into trying to do the best damage output as possible, or just best PvE performance as possible, whether that's a healer, a tank maybe, and of course a DPS. I don't just like to wing it. It doesn't really help the groups or just anything in general to just wing it without trying to understand your class. So leveling, anyone who is or has played Enhancement Shaman, I might not be doing the greatest rotations because I'm still learning, especially in Wrath of the Lich King. But I'd say, later at the higher levels, I really start to lock in my class and specialization. What's also nice too about spamming RDF is that people, it kind of helps people learn their class and specialization too in a like an instant setting. Like, it's really like friendly for people like that, because not only are you learning your spells as you're leveling and you're reading them and you're using them, but if you're the kind of person that wants to spam RDF, it's really good for people to learn new classes without feeling pressured or having to go through the traditional leveling system. Like, you're as long as you're maybe doing some research to help you understand why these are the spells that you have and how to use them, it really helps you learn in the dungeons how to play your class and role. And by the time you get to level 80, you have a really good understanding on how to use these spells and just how to do your rotation properly. Anyone who is still getting to max level and they're still doing bad damage, I think that's just a clear lack of understanding, and they also never bothered to do any kind of research, or they're just so new to World of Warcraft or the expansion that they just genuinely never bothered to learn. And that still happens even today. But yeah, I definitely felt broke while spamming dungeons in a way. I mean, you can get a lot of dungeon gear to sell, but I think most people are just kind of boosting through these runs, especially when you have other players in those runs that have heirloom gear. They don't really care about the kind of gear you have. everyone's leveling. It doesn't really matter too much about like the kind of gear you have. Like one run, you'll get like 6 levels. So it kind of doesn't really matter about gear when you're leveling. And the fact that you can auto learn spells, it really helps not having to worry about spending money. And that's probably something that the staff team of Stormforge probably thought of, is that they're probably going to expect that a lot of people are going to want to quickly level up to 80. So what would be a nice, effective way to make it fun and enjoyable for people without having to worry about getting money for spells? And of course, the auto learn spells and abilities feature, that's where that came in. And I actually really like it. It allows people to just keep on leveling without feeling like their experience is locked based off of how much money they have. You know, it can cost a couple hundred gold, just to kind of get all of the spells. If you were to add up every single rank spell from the class trainer, it's like a couple hundred gold, if not more than that. So the auto learn abilities makes complete sense with how fast most people want to level. Professions definitely is a weak point here. I mean, you of course can do it the old way and just kind of get all the materials naturally. I'm sure you can still do it fast because everyone's just leveling fast mounts, etc., etc. Actually, on this realm specifically, it's probably super easy to level your own professions without boosting them, because most people are boosting their professions. They are probably spending real money to boost max level their professions into Wrath of the Lich King content. It's just you're leveling so fast, it's really hard to want to spend the time to grind professions. That's just time that's taken away from other important things that you could be doing, especially at max level, because this is a speed run. This is definitely a speed run to doing the content that's available on the realm. People don't want to have to worry about grinding professions. Of course, there's the rule to the exception, and there are people who are, but the majority, if I had to guess, are probably buying the boost professions on the Stormforge shop. Comparing this to other Wrath of the Lich King experiences that I've had, because even before I started really recording much on my channel, I played on Wrath of the Lich King servers. Probably 3 to 4 times more in the past. So in total, I've probably played on 5 to 6 Wrath of the Lich King servers in the last 15 years. But I think I have played on servers in realms that were similar pace to this. And those also too were just kind of a random dungeon finder spam. I would have to say though that this has to be the fastest I've ever leveled to 80. It took me less than 12 hours to get to level 80. Most Wrath of the Lich King servers, even when the XP rate isn't very high, it's kind of more like 2 times or 3 times, people still spam RDF because it's just so easy. It's so easy just to stay queued up while you're doing quests. It's not too far off from my other experiences. I actually really enjoyed leveling through the RDF. I haven't really made any serious friends or anything, but it was cool to interact with some people along the way and still see that there's always new people on this server. Just people who kind of don't know what they're doing, and you kind of have to work with a bunch of strangers sometimes in certain runs that people have no idea where to go or how to do certain boss fights. So it's kind of fun to, still teach some people who just don't know what they're doing. Probably my biggest plan at level 80, depending on how things go, is just try and do some quests that are good for pre-raids. Not going to focus on PvP much. Maybe try and hop into a naxx run if they'll take me, depending on whatever gear stage I'm at. I do see some people still running phase 1 raids. Most people are kind of focused on Ascension 1 dungeons and Ulduar, but I still see in the world chat people trying to run Naxxramas, mostly the 25-man heroics, but sometimes I see 10-mans. But with the Ascension dungeon feature, it really kind of doesn't enable people to want to spam Naxxramas too much. But there are still pug runs. I mean, it would make no sense for there to be no pug runs. I mean, you know, there's 3,000 people, so there's definitely going to be pug runs, even when people kind of want to focus on Phase 2. So I'm hoping to kind of hop into Naxxramas because unfortunately on Whitemane, I was only able to really show time walking raids and Trial of the Crusader 10-man and 25-man. I wasn't able to show any kind of early phase content because Phase 3 was already released by the time I went to Whitemane, and they had released Phase 4 not long after I decided to, you know, quit Whitemane. So the fact that I'm able to get into Frostmourne early, I'm really, really hoping to get a lot of Wrath of the Lich King raid content because, you know, people, this is kind of the time to do it because people are running it still. But from what I remember on Whitemane, people do not do earlier phaser raids late game. By Phase 3, everyone's doing Ascension dungeon runs. That's how they're getting their raid gear. They are not running Ulduar, Naxxramas. Like, they are not running those dungeons. They're not running those raids. Maybe the last phase on Heroic. Maybe. And usually those are just certain guilds that are looking for a certain piece of gear. But most of the time, it's just people spamming the Ascension dungeon runs, which is also another feature I'll get into more later on. During my leveling experience and RDF spam, probably the worst dungeon run ever would probably have to be Uldaman. Uldaman's really bad. It's so long. You know, even in Uldaman, I've seen people drop out of the dungeon because it's just taking too long, or maybe people are wiping or not listening, or people. It's mostly just because people don't know where to go. Uldaman was probably the worst dungeon to do in classic vanilla. It's just really bad. You know, in my video, I made it look fast, but it was not a fast run at all. We had some people who left. I skipped through that, and you know, we replaced them after a while. But navigating Uldaman was annoying. It's been a long time since I even would ever do Uldaman, and the only time I would do Uldaman is during Wrath of the Lich King RDF. I never would do Uldaman ever. I'm not really a big vanilla fan. I don't really play vanilla World of Warcraft. I kind of always just hopped PBC and then Wrath of the Lich King. The only time I ever remotely did vanilla content was there was a server that it was called the Grandpa server because they were very, very slow at releasing tiers and phases. I think they're doing still Wrath of the Lich King to the day, but they started at vanilla, but the client was Lich King. So basically, you had Lich King talents, but you were locked into vanilla content. That was the only time I ever raided in vanilla, was that server. I forgot what the name was. Actually, nope, I just found it because I'm still in the Discord, surprisingly. I believe it was Chromicraft, and it's still an active server. I don't know how active. I haven't checked in Chromicraft for a long time, but they started at vanilla and they finished TBC. Now they're finally at the Lich King expansion that is intended for the client. You know, they finally progressed to the expansion that they want to reach. I don't know if they finished Lich King, but knowing Chromicraft as the Grandpa server, I bet you they're probably still in Lich King. Actually, yep, just looking at their Discord now and some of their announcements, they are currently doing Naxxramas. So they're in phase 1 of Lich King in Chromicraft, which is so funny. The amount of servers I've played on, and just before I even did much on my channel. I was on Chromicraft in vanilla and TBC. I didn't finish vanilla, but when they moved to TBC, that's when I came back to Chromicraft in TBC phase 1 tier 4. Then I quit again because the server population was just really low, and they finished TBC. Now they finally stepped into phase 1 of Northrend, because it's technically they're not locked to Lich King in terms of like the client. They just released Northrend. That's how they word it. I won't talk about Chromicraft too much because that's not what the server is about. But it's just kind of funny that was just my only vanilla experience, basically, was Chromicraft. But they are really slow. Oh man, oh man. You know, I've been in the Chromicraft Discord since September 19th, 2022. And they still haven't finished Lich King. It's 2026. That's 4 years, and they still haven't. Took them 4 years to go from vanilla to Lich King phase 1. 4 years. That is ridiculous. I'm not trying to trash Chromicraft, but it's just so funny that it 4 years and they're finally in phase 1 of Northrend. It's so funny. People really weren't kidding when they were telling me that's the grandpa server. But hey, as long as people are having fun on Chromicraft, good for them. But yeah, to go back to what I was talking about with my plan to 80, just raiding, honestly. I want to get as much content as possible. I want to experience, in a way, the full Wrath of the Lich King experience, literally. I never got to really enjoy Naxxramas. Even though I missed phase 1 locked, it's still phase 2 locked, and people are still doing phase 1 content despite the Ascension run. So this is my chance to really get that experience, the full Wrath of the Lich King raid experience. I really want to get into the Ulduar. I don't want to miss out on Ulduar. That's why I'm really excited to get to level 80 and start that, because it's very important to me, my channel, and just my own experience. I never did all phases of Wrath of the Lich King, and I really want this realm and this server to take me there. It's funny too, probably one of the best dungeons during this RDF spam as well, for XP specifically, is probably Scarlet Monastery Graveyard. That is the fastest, in my opinion, besides Stormwind Stockades, for leveling. Every single Wrath of the Lich King content that I've ever done, Scarlet Monastery Graveyard, it covers such a large range of levels. You just keep getting thrown into it, and everyone just gets like so many levels out of it. Another thing I noticed though, and I'm genuinely surprised, between my priest and my shaman, I haven't got into a single Shadowfang Keep run. No joke. I can't prove that on my priest because I deleted my recordings on my priest, but I am not kidding. I always get into Shadowfang Keep. Every single time I ever do RDF, Shadowfang Keep seems to be like one of the first, lower level dungeons I end up getting thrown into around level 20. This is the first time that has not happened, which is so funny. I kind of miss the fact that I didn't get to do Shadowfang Keep because I'm just so used to doing it. But Scarlet Monastery Graveyard, that always ends up being a thing for almost every single person who does RDF. I'm really waiting for the day for someone to tell me that they've never done Scarlet Monastery Graveyard when they were spamming RDF. I really want someone to tell me that, because that would be so rare to not get Scarlet Monastery Graveyard unless you're questing and you kind of skipped over that. Like maybe the timing, you kind of skipped over the Scarlet Monastery Graveyard availability. But yeah, when you're spamming these dungeons, that always ends up becoming the run that you do the most, besides Maraudon and Dead Mines. Dead Mines is another big one that you end up repeating. I don't like Dead Mines though because it's very long, but the amount of XP you get from trash is pretty good. Like, you can level 3 times just from the trash in Dead Mines, but it's very, very long. Dead Mines is also not really a fun run, just because of how long it is. Probably my favorite zone, even though, you know, we barely get to see it, it probably has to be Hellfire Ramparts. Just because I love TBC. TBC is like one of my, if not my favorite expansion. I love stepping into Outlands. It's just, even when I'm, you know, going super fast leveling, stepping into Outlands is always an experience that no one can ever forget. So the ones who know, they know. A lot of gear kind of feels meaningless until you hit Outlands too. Some of that Outland dungeon gear can kind of spill into Lich King, and it kind of helps you, but any gear before level 60 when you're spamming RDF, it's pretty much useless. The only thing that might matter is the weapons, depending on, you know, what class you're playing as, but gear is very useless. You just level so fast, it just does not matter until you get closer to a max level. A big thing I also wanted to kind of keep pace and, you know, cut out of, you know, this journey from 1 to 80 was a lot of the dungeon trash. Most of my content is kind of just covering RDF, so I didn't want to just, you know, spam the videos with just full dungeon runs. That would be way too much. I kind of wanted to show a little bit of trash, but kind of just skipping to the iconic bosses on each run, from Vanilla, TBC, and of course Lich King. Didn't want to spend too much time on showing all the trash. The boss fights are usually the most fun anyways. It's just the, you know, it's the fights that we always wait for when we're doing the runs. It's getting to the boss. So that's another thing. Just kind of skipping to the trash. Skipping to the boss. But at level 80, probably the only thing I'm nervous about is missing out on the early phase content. But again, I don't think that'll be a problem because I still have plenty of weeks before phase 3 comes out. But it will be fresh phase 3, so I'll still have time to possibly get into a pug run or a lucky guild run that wants to do just a nostalgia run on a older phase, or, you know, phase 1 or 2. So probably the only thing I'm worried about, besides like locking in a guild, a lot of people kind of don't need too many enhancement shamans. Their DPS is kind of more the mid to high on the damage meters. Depending on the fights, you might be top 3 or top 5 on the damage meters, but a lot of guilds, I wouldn't really say that they love an enhancement shaman. They only love a few of them for the support, but I don't think they want too many of them. It's not like mages, warlocks, stuff like that. So with the amount of people that are on this realm trying to find the guild that will take an enhancement shaman in a core spot that's open, that'll also be a concern because there's just so many people. But with so many people, there should be so many guilds. So if I can get lucky, I can find a guild that kind of doesn't really have an enhancement shaman or doesn't have many.
What can I do
So
for you?
that's an opportunity, but also something I'm worried about that I hope shouldn't be too much of an issue when I really hit 80 and I start doing pug runs and trying to find that guild that is kind of looking for that, or maybe even a guild that offers it to me. But I've yapped a lot. Kind of just my take so far on the server, but the population is the funnest, healthiest thing so far, and I'm just really, really excited to hit level 80. I'll let some of the gameplay speak for itself, and I hope you guys enjoyed so far watching my journey and enjoy watching me hit level 80, now that we're kind of stepping into Northrend content. I definitely was so excited to level so much into Northrend. I was just so excited to level so much and so fast. I literally did like 40 levels in a single day. Not like, no joke. Just kind of had nothing else to do. Just doom leveled 40 levels in a single day. Like, it was so fun. Like, even though it was a long day, it was a fun day. Enhancement Shaman is very, very fun to play, and I'm so glad that I made the switch from Shadow Priest. I just, even leveling and doing dungeon spam, I really enjoyed Enhancement Shaman way more than Shadow Priest. So that was a good halfway decision before fully committing to my Shadow Priest.
Quest complete.
I need a target. I don't have a target.
complete. Quest complete.
Loktar! May your blades never dull. Loktar! Go. Now.
Your blood is mine! Aranol Ladell! Their fate shall be yours!
Dalron, see if you can muster the nerve to join my attack.
Jump into the fray!
Warriors! will taint my face with your blood! I'm out of range. My life for the death god! Peace, friend. Ancestors watch. How may I be? Goodbye. That's too far. That spell isn't ready yet.
You brash interlopers are out of your element.
Recharging.
I can't cast that.
That spell isn't ready yet. I can't cast that yet. It's still recharging.
Such insolence! Such arrogance! Must be punished!
It's still recharging. That spell isn't ready yet. I can't cast that yet. That spell isn't ready yet. It's still recharging. I can't cast that yet. That spell isn't ready yet. It's still recharging. I can't cast that yet.
Such insolence! Such arrogance! Must be punished!
That spell isn't ready yet. It's still
Savor
recharging.
this small victory. Foolish little creatures. You and your dragon allies have won this battle. But we will win the Nexus War.
Pleased to meet you. You have a great day now.
Krona kai Christo.
Greetings.
It's too far. Inventory is full.
Quest complete. For the Alliance.